Matt Schneidman Show Tuesday, September 10th. Presented to you, as always, by Potawatomi Sportsbook, a new era in sports betting. And I haven't looked at the line yet at Potawatomi. I think I should probably pull it up on my computer. My guess is the Packers are 4.5-point underdogs against the Colts. That's my guess.
Might seem to make sense. Yeah, it's not its first start in the NFL, but
the last couple haven't been good.
Right. That's true.
I'm going to look that up right now and see how close I am. But it's Malik Willis week, as everyone knows. He will presumably talk to reporters tomorrow. We'll learn a little bit more about where his head's at, how the first couple weeks have gone. Matt LaFleur, obviously yesterday, left the door open for Jordan Love to play on Sunday. I said I would quit the show and quit my job at iHeart, which in part helped me afford a house, if Jordan Love plays on Sunday. So I have a lot riding on the line. I am not wishing for Jordan Love to be hurt. Let me clarify that.
Well, yeah,
That's just my prediction.
I don't think anybody thought that.
I think Matt LaFleur, I don't think he thinks the Colts are dummies, but you got to try any angle of gamesmanship you can, right?
Sure.
I thought, as I said yesterday, his gamesmanship would be, we're going to take the week to decide if Sean Clifford or Malik Willis are starting. Instead, it was Malik's going to start if Jordan is cleared. And we said, if. He said, I can't put it on a specific percentage, but if he's cleared, we'll give him every chance to go, but we're not going to mortgage the long-term future of the franchise just to rush him back on the field. In other words, he's not playing on Sunday. Well, maybe his knee magically heals and he's out there, but I would be stunned. I don't often say I would be stunned or shocked at something. I normally just keep it at I would be surprised. I would be flabbergasted if Jordan Love played on Sunday. Wouldn't you, Doug?
Yeah, I remember when Reggie White told us in the locker room so many years ago that his hamstring was healed by God, and that's why he was able to get out on the field. I don't know if any of us bought it. I don't know that I bought it as a young Cub reporter at the time, but he still said it, and he was still out on the field. So I don't know. But that was Reggie. Reggie marched to a different beat than most people. He was a different cat.
Take a guess what the line is. I just looked on Potawatomi.
I'm going to say it's 3.5.
Did you already know it?
No, I didn't.
That's exactly what it is.
Was it? Okay. I didn't think it would be more than 4.5, so I went under.
People are happy about one thing regarding the game on Sunday, that Greg Olson's in the booth.
People like Greg Olson.
Well, if you were wondering if Greg Olson still worked at Fox because Tom Brady took his job, and man, I watched a little bit of that game, the Cowboys-Browns game, because it was the national game on Fox, obviously, with Tom Brady on the call. I think Kevin Burkhardt does a really good job.
He does. I agree.
I watched most of that game with the sound off because I had the Red Zone channel with Scott Hansen on my computer with the volume up on my NFL Plus account. So I didn't hear much of Tom Brady, but boy, people were not happy.
It was his first game. I listened to it too. I watched most of that game, almost all of it. Tom Brady wasn't great by a long shot. He wasn't very good, as a matter of fact. But it was his first game. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt to a certain extent to let him grow in it, but he's being paid a lot of money to be pretty mid in the booth.
And I think the reaction was going to be like this if he fell short because of how good Greg Olson is. Yeah. I'm not going to say how good he was in the A-team booth. But Greg Olson, he's done plenty of interviews over the years saying, yeah, I know it's Tom Brady. Can't get angry about it. Sure, the competitor in him is probably like, damn, I wish I could hold on to my spot, obviously. But you understand that it's Tom Brady. I get why Fox did it. It's Tom Brady, but Greg Olson's really good. And he's now on the number 2 team with Joe Davis, the voice of the LA Dodgers, voice of the World Series, and Pam Oliver, who's one of the OGs of the game, of sideline reporting. So that's going to be the team for Malik Willis versus Anthony Richardson at Lambeau Field on Sunday for a noon kickoff, which means the omelet bar is open.
The omelet bar is going to be open. Really looking forward to that. You can also turn down the sound on the television and
listen to Wayne and Larry.
Tune in to Wayne and Larry. I mean, there's always that option. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people try to sync up their television with the live radio call, and we encourage that. So,
and what station is that broadcast on?
Well, if you're listening in Milwaukee, the flagship of the Packers radio network is 97.3 The Game in Milwaukee. You can listen to it on 101.1 WIXX in Green Bay, 1310 WIBA in Madison, and on a statewide radio network station near you.
And you will be at Lambeau Field, I'm assuming, at the ass crack of dawn.
Yes, sir.
For Packers game day.
Packers game day takes to the airwaves at 8 a.m. I'll be there at about 7 or so. But yes, I will be on site in the north end zone, in the Miller Lite end zone, as the case may be, up in that bar. And I like being up there, but it's also before the gates open. So it's
lonely.
It's really lonely. The gates open at 10. That's when Dennis and Heller take over. I'm on from 8 until 10. So I get the whole place just all to myself. It's very quiet. It's very nice in there. But yeah, come on by, say hello, and watch the magic of radio. I don't know. You can watch the magic of radio right on your screen right now, wherever you happen to be watching this, if you're watching on the stream. But yes, I'll be on at 8 a.m. at the, as you say, ass crack of dawn. No question. I'm usually the first one in and one of the last ones out.
I will probably be waking up. Well, not waking up. I'll probably be getting out of bed around 9, since I only live 12 minutes from the stadium. So,
and you can listen on the iHeartRadio app if you'd like as well.
Yeah, I hear you talk every single day, though, so I don't need to do that. Yeah, I'll probably roll up to the stadium about 2 hours before kickoff. But enough of that. I put out a call for questions on Twitter today. I refuse to ever call it X.
Yeah, me too.
And we got 45 responses.
Nice.
So we're going to tackle your questions. I don't want to say listener questions because I don't know if the people who ask the questions are listeners of the show. I would hope they are.
I would think.
And then in the second segment, we're going to talk to the voice of the Packers, longtime voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee. Excited to resume our weekly Tuesday chats with him. So let's dive right in, Doug. What do you say?
Let's do it. Absolutely.
Well, this isn't a question. The first reply is Pack is back! ! All right.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. From Matt Kramer. With our upcoming schedule for the next 3 games, is it even worth it to rush Jordan back? Do we believe Malik could win 2 out of 3? What I've learned in my brief time doing this job, and by this job, I mean covering the NFL, this is season number 8 for me. Never underestimate an opponent. It is a schedule on paper for a reason. I remember saying last year, the Packers don't play a playoff team until week 8, the Vikings. They'll start 6-2, 5-3, whatever. And then they start 2-5 and 3-6. On paper, the schedule is not as hard as later in the season. You have the Colts, the Titans, the Vikings, the Rams, the Cardinals. So let's just take those first 3 games. If Jordan Love misses 3 games, Colts, Titans on the road, and then back at home for the Vikings. Sure, if Jordan Love's the quarterback, you expect to win all 3 of those games.
Sure.
But I'm not going to sit here and say, Malik Willis should win 2 out of those 3. Sure, I could sit here and say Jordan Love should win all 3, but even then, nothing would surprise me anymore because I saw what happened last year. And even after the Packers went on that midseason stretch, they lose to the New York Giants and Tommy DeVito. Anything can happen in this league. So I would caution all of you about saying, well, we have an easy schedule, so let's take longer getting Jordan back. Take as much urgency and patience. I didn't say that right. Don't have your urgency of getting Jordan Love back be dictated by the strength of schedule or the perceived strength of schedule.
I think most people going into the season thought the Vikings were going to be terrible. One game. Listen, one game. But Sam Darnold looked really good. He looked like a number 3 overall pick. Now, granted, that was a decade ago, and he's had a pretty mediocre NFL career since being drafted at number 3 overall. But he looked really good for the Vikings in his debut with Minnesota, subbing for J.J. McCarthy, who obviously isn't going to be here, but throughout the entire season. But you also thought that, even J.J. McCarthy having, just stepped into the NFL as a starting rookie quarterback, sometimes those guys struggle. And most oftentimes they do struggle. Caleb Williams really struggled, but the rest of the Bears found a way to win a game. The Packers are the last place team in the NFC North right now. So is it panic time? Absolutely not, as we talked about on yesterday's show. No. But anything can happen. The Lions had all they could handle. They still won the game on Sunday night, but they had all they could handle. There are going to be surprise teams that are going to make the playoffs this year that you would have never in a million years would have thought will still be playing football in January. So, yeah, you're right. Anything can happen. The NFL is so year to year. I think the Bears are actually going to be a really good team this year if everybody can stay healthy. And a lot of people look at me like I've got a third eye in the middle of my forehead when I say that. But if you look at the additions that they made, despite drafting a punter in the 4th round, they had a really good draft.
And the second part of Matt Kramer's question, do we believe Malik could win 2 of 3? Like I said yesterday, I would be surprised if it's Malik Willis winning 2 of 3. Can a team with Malik Willis as quarterback win 2 of 3? Sure. Packers are going to have to find other ways to win, though, if they're going to win 2 of 3. I think if Malik Willis starts 3 games, going 1-2 is fine. Being 1-3 when Jordan Love gets back, I think is fine. If Malik Willis wins 2 of 3, that's great.
That's parade time.
If he goes 3-0, dream scenario.
Right.
So you got to win at least one of the next 3 if he's the quarterback for all 3, I think. Can't start 4-0.
0-4. Yeah. No,
what did I say?
You said 4-0. You can start 4-0. You can't start 0-4.
But actually, technically, they can't since they already lost.
Right. Yeah. So you don't want to start 0-4. I mean, if you can start 1-3, there's time to turn it around. The Packers showed that last year. They struggled in the first half. I thought that was predictable. What I didn't see that was predictable, going back to what we were saying about anything can happen, I didn't think that they were going to have the turnaround as fast as they did in the second half of the season. So, yeah, I mean, it's a long season. Anything can happen. I'd like Malik Willis. If he could win a game, I think that would be great for the Packers. If he wins 2, parade time. Come on now. And 3, stop. 3-1, and then Jordan Love comes back near 100%. Stop. Come on.
If they're 3-1, Jordan Love just might stay on the bench, and Malik Willis might still be the starting quarterback.
Quarterback controversy. Love it. Got to have one.
I can't wait. Oh my God. The first good throw he makes, I'm tweeting.
Quarterback controversy.
Maybe 2 throws. I won't abuse the bit entirely.
Okay.
Next question from Tony O'Day. Is Jair done? Can he cover elite wide receivers, or is he just good, not great? He's had some of these games like he had Friday over the years. I remember back in 2019, he had one against Mike Williams against the Chargers, had one against Amari Cooper against the Cowboys. Even the best corners have games like this. Jalen Ramsey had not the best game the other day, and he just became the highest paid corner in the league. What makes these corners great is even if they get beat one day, it's very, very rare that those stretches of weakness carry on and continue. So if Jair has 4 games in a row, like he did on Friday, keep in mind, he didn't have a horrific game. By his standards, he didn't have a good game. And I'm sure he would say that as well, even as self-confident as he is. He had the big touchdown allowed to A.J. Brown. He had the knucklehead decision to run that ball out of the end zone. He missed the tackle, although he slipped on that one, so I don't know how much you can blame him on that, although I did think he came in kind of hot on that one. And A.J. Brown probably got the better of him on the day, but he also had the interception. He had a PBU that he probably should have picked off. So by Jair's standards, not great. But A.J. Brown's getting paid a lot of money too. And if A.J. Brown gets shut down by Jair, do you say, is A.J. Brown just good, not great? No, A.J. Brown's great. But these guys have days like this. You just got to see it not carry over into an extended stretch. And Jair's a really good player. I think he can put that one behind him and put together a couple good games, and we'll see how he responds against if he's on Michael Pittman on Sunday.
I would assume that he would be.
Best receiver.
Yeah. I assume he will be on Pittman. So I'm want to take a wait and see approach with Jair. I think that he's obviously been a very good, excellent, outstanding cornerback But yeah, I mean, every cornerback does have games like that. You hope that there's still some great football left in him. I think that there is, but like you said, and I would echo the sentiment. You just don't want it to continue on to an extended period of time because he's going to be up against and is going to be tasked with trying to shut down teams' number one receivers. And there's some very good receivers in this league, but that's the job.
Next question from Andy. Go Pack Go.
Hi,
Vi
Andy.
Packers Vi in Portuguese, which I learned.
Oh, nice.
How will they challenge Indy in the pass game, given that Malik is going to be a limited passer compared to Love? Do you see quick outs? Will they get him on the move? Will motion be too much? Just chuck it deep on a go route? I'm fascinated how they'll try it. I don't think they'll chuck it deep. You might see one or two air it outs throughout the afternoon, but I think it's going to be a lot of moving the pocket, getting him out on the run, whether that's to scramble or to throw outside the pocket, challenge the defense horizontally. Don't just let them tee off on Malik Willis on traditional 3, 5, 7-step drops and just see him right in front of you. Make them move horizontally. Use that mobility to the Packers' advantage. I'm sure Matt LaFleur is thinking of ways to do that. And I would anticipate a lot more quick hitters, crossing routes, outs, curls, over routes, stuff that doesn't force Malik Willis to just bomb it out, air it out, maybe make too many tight window throws. He's going to have to make a couple. That's going to have to happen. But I think, as we said yesterday, Matt LaFleur just said he needs to be 100% comfortable, meaning Willis needs to be 100% comfortable and adept in the game plan. Not the entire offense, but whatever game plan they put together for him, he needs to be able to execute that. And my guess is it's going to be getting him out on the move, manipulating the pocket, short to intermediate throws, control the clock, move the ball down the field, give him a couple early completions to maybe make the Colts defensive front say, oh, okay, maybe we need to respect this guy a little bit. So then that opens some space in the run game for Josh Jacobs, which is who they have to ride over these next couple games. There
was something that they saw in Malik Willis when they traded for him, because he's not what you would consider to be someone who's typically in a Matt LaFleur type of offense, but they saw something in him that they could perhaps, design some plays for him. Matt LaFleur talked about it yesterday, how you design plays and you create a game plan to play to your players' strengths. Well, they have to change some things, obviously, this week, and they've got to maybe take that playbook and cut it in half, because Malik Willis has been here for exactly 2 weeks, and that's not enough time to learn an entire playbook. So
no, it ain't.
I hate using the term they've got to dumb it down. They just have to simplify it a little bit, just because he hasn't been here very long, and they want to try to play to his strengths, and mobility is one of his biggest strengths.
On the other side of this break, we'll reconnect with Wayne Larrivee, voice of the Packers. Looking forward to talking to him. Stick with us right here on the Matt Schneidman Show on The Game. Back on the Matt Schneidman Show, Tuesday, September 10th. Let's get right into it. We won't make him wait any longer. The return of the great voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, to the Matt Schneidman Show, our typical in-season Tuesday second segment guest. Wayne, what was the highlight of your Brazil trip?
The highlight? Oh, boy. The highlight was actually watching the Chiefs game in the Packers lunchroom with a bunch of personnel from the Packers, a bunch of their staff and players. It was kind of fun.
Oh, the lunchroom at the hotel?
Yeah, at the hotel.
Okay.
The game was on real late, but,
Yes,
it was kind of fun to watch it and see how those guys were reacting to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't actually go to sleep until 6:30 a.m. after the game because I obviously stayed after the game to do post-game and everything, and then wrote my story, and then we had an hour shuttle back to the media hotel. So I literally today just caught up on all my sleep from Brazil, but nobody cares about that. What should we expect? We talked a little bit about this in the first segment from a Matt LaFleur game plan with Malik Willis at quarterback. How different is it going to look than what we see Jordan Love do?
Obviously, Malik Willis is a pretty sharp guy, Matt, because, and I go back to Malik Willis is in camp for about a week. They're in Brazil, and they can elevate Sean Clifford, who's been in the system for over a year, to the active roster to back up, Jordan Love. And they elected not to because they felt Willis had a good enough handle on the offense that if something happened, he could go in and run it. Now he's got a couple of weeks in the offense. He scored 92 on the Wonderlic coming out of college. So this is a smart guy. And I think what we could expect is a game plan that has some tailoring to what Willis can do. And that is he can move the football with his legs as well as his arm.
Yeah, I was saying I think they're going to probably manipulate the pocket, move the pocket a lot, get him on the run, whether that's design runs or get him to throw outside the pocket to test that Colts defense horizontally so they can't just pin their ears back and rush him and have some of the success that the Eagles defensive line did against Jordan. How much do you think is going to be on Josh Jacobs' plate over these next, let's say Jordan Love misses 3 games? There's always a lot on Josh Jacobs' plate, or there will be even when Jordan Love's healthy. But the Colts know that. And Matt LaFleur said it yesterday. Yeah. The Colts are going to be keyed in on the run game. So in your mind, what do the Packers have to do to make sure that Josh Jacobs has space to run instead of just giving him the ball into loaded boxes every single time?
It wouldn't surprise me to see the Packers be pass-oriented, especially on early downs, especially early in this game. And, you can get Jaden Reed the ball in space or Romeo Doubs, or you can make a quick hitting type passing game. You don't have to make Malik Willis go back and read this progression, that progression, that. You can simplify it a little bit in that regard, do a quick hitting passing game, start moving the ball that way, and that's going to open things up for Josh Jacobs. So that wouldn't surprise me at all to see them do some of that.
You mentioned Jaden Reed. I don't want to jump to conclusions based off one game. I did not realize he leads the NFL in receiving yards after 1 week with 138, 8 more than Tyreek Hill, last year's receiving yards leader, I believe. But that was obviously a convincing case to be this team's number 1 wide receiver. We exhausted that narrative, that discussion topic all offseason, all preseason. But it just goes to show that every game, it'll probably be one guy who rises above the rest. It might be, an even distribution some games, but Jaden Reed was certainly one of the guys last year who proved capable of being that guy. He was that guy on Friday. Does he have, I'll put it this way, does Jaden Reed have the most wide receiver 1 potential of the 4 guys, Wicks, Watson, Dobbs, and Reed, even if he hasn't solidified himself as the official number 1 wide receiver yet? Does he have the most potential to be that?
From an ability standpoint, I would go with Christian Watson from an ability standpoint. But when you look at what Jaden Reed does, and the way he has the look of a guy who can really hurt a defense. His route running, probably very underrated. He's open almost every play. He's open. Whether the quarterback sees him or not, that's another story. But it's amazing to me. Jaden Reed seems to have, this is the word, this is a strange word to use, but he has the flexibility to be a number one. I mean, he can show up and he doesn't just run, a go pattern. I mean, he can show up anywhere on the field. I think Christian Watson has the most natural ability to be a number one receiver. Whether he is or not, that remains to be seen. But he has that kind of ability. And Romeo Doubs is excellent getting off the ball in the red zone. I mean, they do different things. And, when I look at some of the other guys they've got, I don't know, Dontavian Wicks certainly has potential. He's had some drops early on here, and that hurt him. But they have four guys that they can really go to. If they're not number one guys, they're close to it, and that's really few teams have that kind of depth in their receiving core. Even the Eagles go about 3 deep at receiver. Okay, and then that's about it, and that's including Jahan Dotson, and not including the tight end, who's also a very good receiver. But the Packers have some real depth at this position that most teams don't have, and they have an offense that isn't afraid to spread it around.
Jaden Reed was the best of the bunch, but I think Bo Melton was second best, even though he didn't make a catch, I don't believe, because he pounced on Josh Jacobs' fumble.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, absolutely.
A la Eric Wilson in the divisional round last year after Keyshawn Nixon
fumbled.
Can I
ask you something?
Sure.
A two-part question for you, because this is what I saw, and I came back and you see it live, and then I'm like you, I always go back and watch the tape because you see it from a different angle. Okay, and a couple of things. I thought both quarterbacks in that game in Sao Paulo on Friday night, we've seen them better than they were that night, and I don't know what the reason was. Maybe it was the field. Who knows? But that was one thing. And the other thing, I felt Philadelphia at times had a pretty good advantage over the Packers in the trenches, be it the Eagles' offensive line against the Packers' defensive front, or the Eagles' defensive front against the Packers' offensive line. There were points when both of them, to me, it looked like they had the upper hand in the game. And, I don't know what you thought, but I went back and looked at the tape and got the same impression.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles are going to have an advantage in the trenches over probably every single team they play. They have one of the best teams, if not the best, up front on both sides of the ball in the league. So I was not surprised to see them kind of handle the Packers, at least in the running game. Jordan Love wasn't under too much pressure. Think what? Was he sacked once? If I'm not mistaken.
Early on he was experiencing some pressure, and he was I noticed from a body language standpoint, watching it live from where we were, I said, boy, I think this pressure is affecting him a little bit. I might have even said that on the air. But that was early on, and he settled in. So I agree with you. I don't, it wasn't like he was under siege every time he pulled.
Right. That's my point. The pockets weren't always clean. It's not like he had all day back there to throw like Jalen Hurts did on some of his plays. And that was kind of by design for the Packers to keep him in the pocket and make him throw, as we know, based on what, Kenny Clark and Matt LaFleur said yesterday. But like you said, Jordan wasn't under siege. Like they sacked him once. Zach Bond had 2 sacks, Wisconsin guy. And one of those was on Malik Willis on the last play of the game. So I think the Packers offensive line, specifically Elton Jenkins and Zach Tom, according to PFF, were fine. As I mentioned yesterday, PFF was not as kind to Josh Myers, Jordan Morgan, Sean Ryan, and Rasheed Walker. But that's kind of expected. We know Elton Jenkins and Zach Tom are the Packers' 2 best offensive linemen. But yeah, I don't think it's a indictment on the Packers that the Eagles got the better of them up front. Both running the ball, the Eagles I'm talking about, and, stopping the run, at least in the first half. The Packers were able to do some things in the second half schematically to open up some holes for Josh Jacobs. I don't think that's an indictment on the Packers, since the Eagles are going to do that to a lot of teams this year. Let me ask you this.
Yeah,
what were your first impressions of the Jeff Hafley defense? Were there concerning things that make you think, okay, this might be a longer acclimation period than I thought for the players to the new system? Or do you think it was just the Eagles? It was the field? We saw a lot of slipping. And do you think they have the tools and showed some signs that they can get things turned around and maybe carry this team over the next couple weeks?
I think they have the tools to do it. I really do. The tackling was questionable in that ball game in Sao Paulo. It usually is, Matt, in the first game of a regular season, because these guys are tackling basically for the first time. Okay.
And when you're
you
playing on a
also,
slip and slide.
Yeah. And then they're playing at a slip and slide, So I give them a pass in that regard. I liked a lot of what I saw. I loved McKinney and the interception he made. I thought that Rashawn Gary in that second half really stepped up and made some plays. No, there's no reason for me to believe off of that game. And I thought going in, okay, and I'm pretty sure you felt the same way. Going in, this skill set for the Eagles, maybe the best the Packers are going to see. Do some teams have skill sets as good? Probably, but nobody's better than what they've got. I mean, the two wide receivers they put out there, and now you throw Jahan Dotson in there. The tight end is excellent. Now you've got Saquon Barkley, who's outstanding behind that offensive line. And Jalen Hurts is a quality quarterback. So the skill set the Packers defense was up against, I felt was formidable going into the game. And nothing I saw on Friday night would sway me from that conclusion.
Yeah, I think on the surface, watching the game, I obviously didn't know what the Packers had discussed before the game plan wise, but as I mentioned, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday, Kenny Clark did mention after the game, and Matt LaFleur seconded it when he talked to us yesterday, that they kind of agreed to sacrifice pressuring the heck out of Jalen Hurts just to keep those rush lanes, vertical, not do anything too funky horizontally, to give Jalen Hurts room to scramble up the middle and make things happen with his feet. For the most part, they did a good job of that, save for, Matt LaFleur said, a couple times late. And a couple times Jalen Hurts kept the ball on read options, and the Packers were right there, and Jalen Hurts just had to, go into a turtle shell. Obviously, the Eagles still won, so credit to them and the threat that he poses, because the Packers had to alter their rush plan and try and make him throw. With quarterbacks like that, you have to pick your poison. And he made enough plays with his arm, so credit to him. I think they'll take a similar approach with Anthony Richardson, who led the Colts in rushing over Jonathan Taylor in week 1. And I think it's probably a safer bet, even though Anthony Richardson has great arm talent. It's probably a safer bet that you can try and limit him in the run game, and he won't do as much damage in the pass game, especially because the field will be better at Lambeau. He's not as proven of a passer as Jalen Hurts is. So if the Packers implement that same game plan, then I think they'll be a little bit better off than they were against the Eagles.
And the Colts, and again, Jonathan Taylor's as good as it gets. Don't get me wrong, but the Colts don't have the talent at tight end or at wide receiver. Now they've got that one kid who had a breakout game at wide receiver last
Alec
week,
Pierce.
Alec Pierce. But they don't have the same talent level at the skill positions that the Eagles did. So this is a different week, and we'll see a little bit more of that defense. I am still high on what Jeff Hafley is doing defensively and the people he has doing it. Okay. And I thought the biggest, if you were just a fan watching that game, by the way, if you didn't have a horse in the race, that was a hell of a football game, back and forth and lead changes and all that. That was a nice football game. But I thought if you look closely into the matchups in that game, Jair Alexander against A.J. Brown, what a great matchup. Two great players at their positions. And granted, I mean, obviously, A.J. Brown got the better of it for the most part, but both had their moments. I mean, Jair had his moments, and, but I tell you what, A.J. Brown, he's something else, isn't he? I mean,
he's a stud.
And the Smith kid on the other side of him is not far behind.
No, he's not. Let me ask you this, Wayne, before we let you get out of here. If Malik Willis starts the next 3 games, what would you consider a success with him under center, record-wise?
2-1, but even if it's 1-2, I still think that keeps the Packers afloat.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think,
but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. And yes, the defense, yes, the running game. The Packers have to play better than they played in Brazil. Matt LaFleur has said as much. And you know what, Matt? The other thing that Mike McCarthy, one of my favorite coaches, always used to say, the biggest improvement a football team makes from 1 week to the next is first week to second week. And I expect the Packers to be put forth a much better performance in terms of the little things, tackling and all the other stuff that goes into it in this game against the Colts.
Matt LaFleur has proven to be a good coach in this league. So I think with 10 days to work up a game plan for Malik Willis, I don't think the Packers are going to be left without answers. I did pick the Colts to win 27-17. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think they're going to have some answers and some things to make Malik Willis look like at least a competent quarterback. But we'll see. Appreciate you, Wayne.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Matt.
We'll talk to you next week.
We'll talk to you next week.
That's Wayne Larrivee, as always. And I think there is an ad read I'm supposed to do after this, but I forgot to pull it up. That sponsors our Wayne segment. So I'm going to do that when we get back from this break. I got to get back in the routine of having that up when we have Wayne on. I forgot there's a separate ad read that I have to do when Wayne comes on that other people do when I go on their shows. So just got to get back in the swing of things, Doug. It's still week 3 for our show, week 2 for the season.
Yeah, well, it's early. There's still plenty of time to, and this is the first week for Wayne, though, too, on the show.
It was.
So it's, I would say it's the preseason for everybody, but it's not exactly the preseason, but it is still the first time. So it's nice to hear from Wayne on the show again.
It's
always
nice
enjoy
to
that.
hear from Wayne.
You can hear him on Sunday again at noon.
I just Googled Wayne in my inbox. Can't find anything. Oh, well, I'll look for it during the break. Anyway, we're going to answer some more of your questions on the other side. Stick with us right here. It's Matt Schneidman Show on the Game. I just want to listen to this song. All right. I guess I'll do the rest of my show. Iron Jocks t-shirts, the best t-shirt on the planet. No body odor smell ever. And now through September 15th, when you buy 2 small logoed short sleeve t-shirts, you'll get a third for free. That's a $39.99 item free when you buy 2. Just enter the promo code T-shirt BOGO. That's TSHIRT BOGO at checkout. Go to ironjock.com for details. That's ironjoc.com. Let's dive back into the questions that we were reading during the first segment from our listeners, readers, followers, whatever you want to call them. It's a good question here from EJ Moulton 33. How much time do you feel fans should rightfully give Hafley to judge his defense? Seems like everyone expects an overnight miracle, and that's just not how these transitions seem to go.
It's a very good question.
Doug?
I think you can see some trends probably about 6 or 7 games in.
I was going to say 4.
Okay. About a quarter of the season. I give it maybe a little bit longer, but somewhere in there. Yeah. 6. I say 6 or 7 games, but certainly not the entire season. That you better have something figured out by then. I give it 6 or 7 games because, like we've been saying, it is a long season and there's time to turn things around if things aren't going well. The first half of the season, you can certainly turn things around in the second half. And that's, we saw it offensively last year, but you can also see it defensively as well. And I think we've seen that defensively over the last couple of years too.
And remember, the starters played a couple snaps in the preseason on defense, and B, they didn't show anything in those snaps. And neither did Hafley's defense. So nobody really has in-game reps in what they're actually running in the regular season. So it is going to take some time to adjust to a new defense. I mean, Vic Fangio let up 29 points.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of the more proven defensive minds in the league. So Jeff Hafley, who's never called defensive plays in the NFL before, might take a couple games. But luckily for the Packers, they play a second-year quarterback who barely played as a rookie, Will Levis, and Sam Darnold. Now, all due respect to those guys, you're going to face better quarterbacks. So Jeff Hafley's defense, this is a time to take advantage of what's in front of you. Even though it's just on paper. Those guys might tear the Packers up, just like Tommy DeVito did for one drive last season.
Tommy DeVito.
He got like sponsorship deals because of Joe Barry.
Sure. Yeah, it was a fun story for a couple of weeks. And we're going to see that throughout the NFL. We see it every year. We see it in every sport. There's a fun story for a couple of weeks, and Tommy DeVito just happened to have his fun story against the Packers. But he was kind of fun going into it. Jersey kid, Tommy used to work on the docks. I mean, everything. It was perfect. It just chef's kiss the way that just laid out. Unfortunately, the Packers kind of bore the brunt of it for a game.
Here's an interesting one from Nick Capitz. Concerns on Musgrave becoming TE2. Do you see his role diminishing as the year goes on? It's interesting you ask that because Bill Huber, I'm not sure if he's writing a story on it, but asked Matt LaFleur about that because Kraft played 64 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what Bill wrote in this transcription email. I'm going to look up the snap counts to make sure that Bill's known to exaggerate things. So I'm going to make sure that 64 to 17 or whatever he wrote is accurate. Okay, so let's see here. Tucker Kraft played 64 snaps, 96%. Luke Musgrave played 17. Okay, so he wasn't exaggerating.
Interesting.
Matt LaFleur said, I think we're going to continue to work both those guys in. Certainly there's going to be some games that maybe Tuck plays a little bit more than Luke and vice versa. That's just how it played out. And Bill said it was 64 to 17. And he said, I know, but we weren't in 12 personnel very much either, meaning that they weren't in 2 tight end sets a lot. So I think Tucker Kraft has proven to be a capable blocker, pass catcher, especially running in space like he was able to do in Friday's game a little bit. Luke Musgrave too. So maybe it's just a game-by-game thing. Again, it's one game. We notice it become a trend, then maybe I wouldn't say it's a concern that Luke Musgrave could become tight end 2 because he was a 2nd-round pick. Tucker Kraft was a 3rd-round pick. It's not like there's this clear-cut hierarchy and one's a 1st-round pick, one's a 7th-round pick. we saw Tucker Kraft do stuff equally as impressively as Luke Musgrave when Musgrave went down with the lacerated kidney last year. So I think they can be interchangeable. And on Friday, it was Tucker Kraft's turn. On Sunday, Luke Musgrave could be featured. Who knows?
Something to keep an eye on.
As long as you have one of them really impacting the blocking game, the passing game, then I think you're fine. Two would be nice. And there's been talk this preseason about everything the Packers can do with both of them on the field. But as Matt LaFleur said, they weren't in 12 personnel much, so they didn't have many opportunities to use both of them on the field.
I mean, it just gives you a different look. I mean, the Packers, I don't want to compare everything to the last time, well, 2 times ago that the Packers won a Super Bowl, but they had 2 pretty damn good tight ends in Keith Jackson and Mark Chmura. I mean, that was a pretty decent 2 tight end set that they had, and they used it effectively on Mike Holmgren at the time. So, yeah, I mean, if you've got 2 guys that can, play that position really well, it's just something to keep an eye on with the snap counts. I mean, 64-17? That's pretty significant.
Yes, it is. Next question from @NSportsline. Could GB be letting the media know the injury is not as bad as we thought to throw off opposing teams? They would have to prep for both J. Love and Malik, not know which will start. I've touched on this a little bit before. The Colts would be fools to prepare for Jordan Love. And if Jordan Love plays, I'll wear the egg on my face, but nobody thinks Jordan Love is going to play on Sunday. Nobody with a functioning brain thinks Jordan Love is going to play on Sunday. The Packers, as Matt LaFleur said, will not mortgage their future to make sure they have a slightly better chance to win. And who knows, is Jordan Love not at 100%? It depends on what percentage he's at. Give them a better chance to win than 100% Malik Willis? Maybe, maybe not. I think when they say it's not as bad as we thought, they're referring to not as bad as they initially feared when Love was writhing in pain on the field, throwing his right leg up in the air and needing to be helped off the field.
Yeah, we all thought that it was a torn ACL. That's what we all thought. That's what everybody thought.
So I think that's what they mean when they say we caught a break here. Now, the 3 to 6 week timeline, 3 to 4 weeks, whatever you want to call it, that's probably accurate. I think them saying he's not ruled out for this Sunday is probably trying to throw people off the scent, but
nobody's buying it.
Nobody's buying it.
And in a 40% Jordan Love, and I don't know what the percentage is, but a 40,
they're not
going to say
a 40% Jordan Love on the field.
They're not 40% Jordan Love versus a 100% Malik Willis. You're going to go with Malik Willis every time. Sorry.
And who knows? Maybe Jordan Love's at 70% by the end of the week, but I still wouldn't put him out there then. I'd wait till he's at least in the 90s.
Yeah.
Because as Matt LaFleur said, you just paid this guy $220 million over 4 years, an insane amount of money up front. You're not going to mortgage the next, obviously re-injuring it wouldn't cost, the Packers the next 10 years, but we saw what happened with David Bakhtiari. Obviously, that's a completely different situation, completely different body type, torn ACL. Who knows what happened after that? Well, we do, because Dave has talked about it at length, but I can't remember off the top of my head all the complications he had, but knees are tricky. Yeah, so you don't want to risk further injury, further complication, and ruin the next year or two of the Green Bay Packers for an extra game or two of getting Jordan Love back.
Yeah, I mean, I know that some Packers fans are reminded of, I think it was 2018 when Aaron Rodgers sprained his knee in the first half against the Bears, had to be carted off, and oh no, the season is over. Aaron's got a torn ACL. He's not going to be able to play at all, and then he comes back and leads the team to victory in the second half.
They make the playoffs anyway that year.
I know. They didn't.
Coach fired.
It did, with 4 games left, which, by the way, fun fact.
That season got the coach fired. Well, maybe Rodgers got the coach fired too.
Probably. He didn't help. We'll put it that way. And it's the first time the Packers in their 100-year history had ever fired a coach in mid-season. And I think 1 or 2 resign during the season. It's the first time. Mike McCarthy's the only coach in Packers history to ever be fired during the season. And that was the year.
And he's still got a street named after him.
Well, that happened a couple of years prior. You win a Super Bowl, you get a street. Those are the rules. I don't make them.
When all is said and done, will Matt LaFleur have a street named after him in Green Bay?
Ooh. I mean, it's a very simple equation.
It means will he win a Super Bowl?
It means will he win a Super Bowl? I'm going to say, yeah, sure. I mean, he's been on the doorstep so many times. At some point, you got to knock that door down. And I think that the Packers, at some point with Matt LaFleur, because he's going to be the coach for a while, He's young. He's healthy. He's been successful. He's going to be the coach for a while. At some point, he's going to knock that door down.
Okay. We'll end the show on that. Doug predicting Matt LaFleur will win a Super Bowl, whether it's this year or next. Matt LaFleur Terrace has a decent ring to it.
It does. I like that.
Okay.
I like Parkway, too.
Matt LaFleur Parkway. Tomorrow, Hunter fills in for Doug. Thank God. We appreciate everyone for listening. We'll talk to you in 23 hours.